The greatest heist in history.
It's a hot summer's evening in Paris. For weeks, a record breaking heat wave has been cooking the city, leaving the streets empty and the Louvre quieter than ever.
Unrelated to the video, because I just feel like after being pumped to that, do you guys remember back in the day, like when you'd come back from you just finished school or PE and or whatever reason, and you weren't wearing shoes, or like you were going barefoot, shoes and bag, or you came with flip flops to school for a reason, you're just not wearing shoes and you're walking back home, and you're walking on the hard tar, and it's just like boiling, just pure asphalt degrees. And as you're walking, each step you're taking, it's like you're actually burning your legs. I remember I used to do this, and funnily enough, I had this situation where I just didn't bring my shoes into school because we were having an all school pool day. So I was like, there's no need to bring in my shoes because I can just swim in the pools and then just walk home. Then I didn't check the weather, of course, so I'm just walking back. I think trekking 30 pure minutes of walking for back home, genuinely just running, looking for shade, and then waiting for like my legs to calm down and then running on asphalt. And I remember coming home with like blisters on my leg and just not being able to walk for the next like few days because it just hurts so bad. And I just felt like I had to share that story, honestly.
No one dares to go outside, but for one man, it's time to strike. Throughout the night, he pulls off the heist of the century, plucking the Mona Lisa from the Louvre and disappearing into the city. This set off a worldwide investigation, leading French police down a 2-year rabbit hole of false leads and famous arrests before.
You know how skilled you have to be to steal the Mona Lisa? Like that painting has been like not even because of its history, just because it's called the Mona Lisa. Like how many people know nothing about art or paint or the craft and still know what the Mona Lisa is, and for you to be able to just like, how would you do that? Because like I feel like the art gallery has to have like thousands of people on the daily, so like someone must should have been like, oh my god, he doesn't look like he works here. Oh my god, he's wrapping the Mona Lisa in a cloth. I should probably tell someone. I don't. I feel like this is just probably like a camera issue or something. But then again, they probably didn't have cameras back in the day.
A mysterious letter eventually gave the thief away. We modeled the entire thing to show you how a single man stole the Mona Lisa, how he almost got away with it, and the elaborate plan behind the heist that was eventually revealed decades later. As the sun went down that Sunday evening, the last few tourists were trickling out of the Louvre. But just before it closed, a man entered the museum dressed in the Louvre's official white uniform. Blending in as an employee, he quickly found his way to a small storage closet, squeezed his way in, and waited out the entire night. The Louvre was closed the next day, so very few employees were going to be patrolling the museum. At precisely 7:15 the next morning, the thief emerged into an almost empty Louvre. With no one in sight, he quickly made his way into the Salon Carré, and there it was. At the time, the Mona Lisa didn't have its own room, and it wasn't nearly as famous as it is today, but the thief was about to change that. With no one in sight.
Is this the story on how the Mona Lisa became like the reason it's so famous today, or is it just one of the factors? So I wonder because like you said, like I was expecting the Mona Lisa to be like generational wealth, but I'm assuming that of course, back in the day, maybe they didn't have as much power as it had as was it Leonardo DiCaprio, the artist that did it? Probably wasn't, as famous. Or maybe this was the catalyst to him, getting fame for the Mona Lisa.
He pulled the painting off its metal pins and carried it to a nearby stairwell. Using a screwdriver, he managed to remove the painting from its protective frame before covering it in a white sheet and heading straight for the nearest exit. But as he reached for the door, it was locked. At that exact moment, a plumber working for the Louvre appeared out of nowhere. He assumed that the man was a Louvre employee.
Like, can you imagine just this scenario? You're like your plumber. You're not even working for the company, or you're working at the company, not for the company, and you just come downstairs from like your 30-minute aggressive toilet degassle. Somebody took like a big 30 pump in the loo and it's just clogged, and you come down to see this man looking at you with like dead stare, death stares actually, and he's just like, "Don't tell anyone. This would be better for me and you." Like, and like, surely you're not getting paid enough to be snitching.
And so he helped him open the door. And just like
Fair
that,
enough.
the thief disappeared into the city with the Mona Lisa under his arms. The whole heist was over in just a matter of minutes. But it would take another 28 hours before anyone realized the painting was really gone. That week, photographers had been going through the museum and taking the paintings to be officially photographed, so blank spaces on the wall were completely normal. But when the photographers showed up the next morning without the Mona Lisa, it became clear that something was extremely wrong. The Mona Lisa was officially missing. The police were called and a team of detectives descended on the museum. France closed its borders and stationed tanks around the Louvre. Just
If France closes borders, wouldn't that have just if assuming I stole the Mona Lisa and I escaped the country, there's no way for me to come back. So that essentially means I'm a free man, no?
kidding, these tanks weren't used. But they can be used in War Thunder.
Okay.
War
To be- that
Thunder
was-
is a
that was
free-to-play epic military action game where you can fight in dynamic battles using land, sea, and air vehicles. When the Louvre announced that one of its prized possessions had disappeared, it sent shockwaves all around the world. And the question was, where did it go? All the police had found was the wooden picture frame and a fingerprint left behind by the thief. To get the investigation going, local newspapers started offering a reward of $250,000 for any information that would lead.
If they start charging 250,000 for just information, I'll just start sending random emails, random letters on anything possible. Cause 2050, like 250, like even if it's like a slight guess and you get correct, that's enough money for generational wealth in those times, no?
them to the painting. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of people sent letters and showed up to police stations with all kinds of information, placing the Mona Lisa all over the world. 2 separate witnesses recalled seeing a man leaving the Louvre with a bulky object, but the descriptions of the man were completely different. One person claimed that the Mona Lisa was on a freight train heading through Belgium, and another claimed that the painting was on a ship which had already set sail for America. But perhaps the most promising suspect was the famous artist, Pablo Picasso. A secretary who knew Picasso wrote to the police.
Pablo Picasso sees the Mona Lisa doing too well, has beef. Pablo Picasso, back when he was 7, Leonardo DiCaprio, they both little kids. Leonardo takes Pablo Picasso's girlfriend, and his girlfriend essentially cheats on Picasso. Picasso's like, you will rule the day, and I'll get my revenge back. Fast forward now, Picasso's stolen the Mona Lisa as his revenge. That is literally the plot twist, and you can't tell me otherwise.
And admitted that he had stolen several Iberian statues from the Louvre. He claimed to have sold these statues to Picasso, who went on to use them in one of his paintings. It seemed unlikely, but after checking the serial number on the statues, the Louvre confirmed that they really were from the museum. Picasso was arrested and taken in for questioning. Meanwhile, the police turned their attention to another famous suspect, American banker and art collector J.P. Morgan. At the time, art forgery was a big business, and paintings were often being forged and sold to naive millionaires in America. According to the claim, Morgan had commissioned the heist, and the painting was now on its way to him. Police in America stopped and searched a boat pulling into New York, but there was no Mona Lisa on board. Theories kept coming in from all over the world.
You know how crazy it would be if, like, even now they found the Mona Lisa, but it's just some forged version of the Mona Lisa, and we've just been living with that thought of doubt. This is the real Mona Lisa, and everyone knows that, where and someone just has a fake Mona Lisa just living in their basement. Wouldn't that be crazy, man? It just goes to show you that, like, art truly has, like, it just art is just the value we give it. As long as everyone believes it's real, you know, everyone's gonna pay for it.
But after 2 years of searching, the location of the Mona Lisa was still a complete mystery. As it turned out, the Mona Lisa hadn't gone far at all, and it was sitting in an apartment just 2 miles from the Louvre. This was the apartment of Vincenzo Peruggia, a 29-year-old Italian who used to work at the Louvre as a handyman. He knew every weakness of the Louvre. He knew that it was closed on Mondays. He knew about the photographers, and it was him who had made the Mona Lisa's protective case, which he dismantled so easily during the heist. After leaving the Louvre, he hid the painting in a trunk with a false floor, which he had made himself. But how did he get away with it for so long? Amazingly, Perugia already had a criminal record, and his fingerprints were already in the system. But only his right-hand fingerprints were in the system, and the one on the picture frame was a left-hand print, and so a match was never found. During the investigation, police had visited Perugia's apartment twice, but never found anything. Little did they know that the Mona Lisa was hiding right under their noses. Perugia had pulled off a stupidly simple heist, and it seemed like he would get away with it. But after 2 years holding the painting hostage, he started to get impatient. He wrote an anonymous letter to an art dealer in Florence, the city where Da Vinci painted the masterpiece. In the letter, he claimed to have the Mona Lisa in his possession and said he wanted to return it back to its home. He signed the letter with the name Leonardo and took the next train to Florence. The art dealer and his associate agreed.
What was the point of English? If we're just gonna give the art painting back, what was the point of stealing it? Like, what did he have to gain if he was gonna keep it for 2 years without trying anything? Like, this guy might have been a great heistess, but clearly he's not a critical thinker.
To meet Perugia in his hotel room to authenticate the painting. With the doors locked, Perugia opened up the trunk, and to their surprise, it really was the Mona Lisa. In order to further authenticate the painting, the art dealers took it back to their studio, assuring Perugia that he would be rewarded for bringing it back to Italy. But just an hour later, the police showed up at his door and arrested him. Perugia ended up spending just 7 months in prison and died just 10 years later. Although the search for the Mona Lisa was over, the truth...
I don't know why he said died just 10 years later. That's a pretty long life. I thought they were going to say like he died the next year to like suicide, but 10 years is a pretty long time. I would think so anyway.
Behind what really happened seemed to have gone to the grave. But in 1932, a story was published that revealed a much more elaborate plan behind the heist. Written by Carl Decker, he claimed to know the man who was really behind the heist, a man named Eduardo de Valfierno, an expert in art forgery. He had come up with a grand plan to sell not 1, but 6 perfect copies of the Mona Lisa to 6 unsuspecting millionaires lined up in America. He commissioned a talented French painter to make the copies and shipped them off to America and put them into storage. In order for them to believe they were really getting their hands on the Mona Lisa, the real one had to go missing, and so he contracted Perugia to pull off the heist. When news spread that the Mona Lisa had gone missing, the paintings were sold to their buyers, and the 3 involved ran off with the equivalent of $90 million. And now, time for the Primal Space giveaway. The winner of the previous giveaway is Josh.
That is genuinely insane. And what? So one of them only had to serve essentially 7 months in prison for what? 90 million divided by 3, $30 million. Or was it pounds? Whatever currency was that, and just 7 months in prison and the next year spent using it. All I can say is I'd be pissed if I was like the millionaire in America and I've just been done over, you know? I'm like, I go to my mate's house to just brag about my new Mona Lisa. They're like, oh yeah, I got that too. And they'd be like, one of us is fake. And then they find out both are fake. But yeah, no, a heist. He ended up giving it back. So I guess maybe the guilt got to him. But you know, that was interesting heist. But damn, he could have been much more thought out with his ending, honestly.